How long do you think you'd have to wait if you needed emergency medical care? In most places on Earth, the answer is measured in minutes. But here, there are no sirens, only the sound of waves, repeating for 6 to 10 days before a rescue ship can even arrive. And just a few weeks ago, in order to provide medical support to a patient here, the British military had to do something never before attempted: parachute in from an altitude of more than 2,000 meters. This is Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited settlement on the planet. It sits more than 2,400 kilometers from the nearest inhabited land. No airport, no deep water port, no road leading out of here at all. Nothing but the ocean itself. If you set out from Cape Town, South Africa, and sailed straight south for 7 days with no land in sight and no phone signal, that's how far you'd have to go to reach this place. Tristan da Cunha didn't break off from any continent. It was born from the ocean floor itself. Millions of years of erupting lava, layer upon layer, until an enormous mountain finally broke the surface of the water. Its summit carries a rather beautiful name, Queen Mary's Peak, standing 2,062 meters tall, the highest point anywhere in British overseas territory. And right at the very top, in a place where you'd expect nothing but rock and wind, hides a wide volcanic crater, cradling a small, heart-shaped lake. But that beauty comes at a cost. Most of the island is made up of sheer cliffs plunging straight down into the sea, not a single beach to soften its edges. Only one narrow strip of land on the island's north side is flat enough for people to build homes on. For more than 200 years, the island's only village has never expanded beyond that strip, simply because there's nowhere else to go. The waters around here fall within what sailors call the Roaring Forties, a stretch where powerful winds sweep across thousands of kilometers of open ocean without a single obstacle in their path, strong enough to bend even the toughest trees, forcing them to grow permanently tilted inland just to survive. The weather here can change 3 times in a single day: sunshine in the morning, fog by midday, then wind and rain in the afternoon, before clearing up again. And because the terrain is so steep, with no stretch of land flat or wide enough for a runway, Tristan da Cunha remains, to this day, the only place in the world with a fully inhabited human community that has no airport whatsoever. For a place so hard to reach, who was the first person to actually think of calling it home? In 1506, a Portuguese explorer first spotted this island on his way to India. But rough seas and the sheer cliffs made it impossible for him to come ashore. He could only mark its location on a map, name it after himself, and sail on. For more than 3 centuries afterward, the place fell silent, as if the time for humans to truly discover it simply hadn't come yet. In 1810, an American sailor named Jonathan Lambert decided to stay behind, along with two companions. The first time in history anyone had chosen to settle here and build a new life, rather than just pass through. But just 2 years later, all three men died in an accident at sea. The first attempt at settlement ended almost as soon as it began. In 1816, Britain formally annexed the island, not for its value, but out of concern it might be used as a staging point to rescue Emperor Napoleon, then imprisoned on nearby St. Helena. When the garrison completed its mission and withdrew, a Scottish corporal named William Glass made a decision that would change the future of this tiny piece of land forever. He chose to stay. Glass didn't come alone. He brought his wife, 2 children, and a handful of companions. Over time, the island took in shipwreck survivors, discharged soldiers, and immigrants from St. Helena, Europe, and South Africa. They arrived from different places for different reasons. But once the last ship sailed away, all of them became neighbors on the same small island. Over generations, from those first families, the community gradually formed into 8 surnames: Glass, Green, Hagen, Lavarello, Repetto, Rogers, Swain, and Taylor. Those 8 surnames remain the only ones that exist on the island to this day, meaning nearly all of the more than 220 people living here are related to one another, closely or distantly. But there came a day when the sea, the very thing that had always sustained this community, took almost everything away. In 1885, a boat carrying most of the island's able-bodied men set out to meet a cargo ship anchored offshore. That boat never came back. In the span of a single morning, nearly every working-age man on the island was lost, leaving behind widows, fatherless children, and a community forced to learn how to stand on its own, without most of the people who had once held it up. More than a century has passed since that day, but the memory of it remains etched into the way Tristan's people view the sea, even now, both a source of life and something capable of altering the fate of an entire community in the span of a single morning. And as if history wanted to teach that same lesson once more, in a completely different way, nearly 80 years later, the very ground beneath their feet would force the whole community to leave everything behind. But the most unforgettable chapter in this island story isn't about settlement at all. In early October 1961, the ground began to shake continuously. Boulders tumbled down the mountainside, and cracks spread across the land. Then, on October 10th, a new volcanic vent suddenly erupted right next to the island's village. Lava slowly crept downward as the sky filled with ash. Residents had time to grab only their most essential belongings before boarding fishing boats and leaving the island. An entire community forced to abandon its homeland. Britain welcomed them into a modern life many of them had only ever imagined. Bustling streets, city lights, supermarkets, cars, household appliances. But surrounded by millions of strangers, many of them felt lonelier than they ever had before. They missed the smell of the sea breeze, the sound of waves crashing beneath the cliffs, the narrow little roads, the place where everyone knew everyone's name. Then, once experts confirmed that Tristan da Cunha was safe again, a question was sent to every family. Do you want to go back? Nearly everyone said yes, after having experienced firsthand every comfort a modern city had to offer. Why do you think they still chose an island with nothing on it at all? And it turns out the story of this island's isolation didn't end in 1963. In April 2026, a cruise ship called the MV Hondius stopped at the island during its South Atlantic exploration voyage. No one realized the ship was carrying a dangerous pathogen, hantavirus, a rare virus spread by rodents. One island resident soon began showing symptoms. He was isolated at the island's one small hospital, but the medical oxygen supply quickly began running out. And in a place with no airport and no port large enough for a ship to dock quickly, how could oxygen and specialist doctors possibly arrive in time? On May 9, 2026, a special team of 6 parachutists and 2 medical specialists departed from an airbase in the UK, flew over Ascension Island, refueled mid-air, and continued on for nearly 10,000 kilometers before finally reaching the skies above Tristan da Cunha. Because the level of medical care required was so specialized, an intensive care physician and an ICU nurse had to tandem jump, strapped tightly to a professional parachutist. Winds on the island that day were so strong that military experts described the conditions as extremely challenging. The team had to jump from an altitude of more than 2,000 meters, several kilometers off the coast, letting the wind carry them gradually toward land. And the spot where they landed was the island's tiny 9-hole golf course, a place where, on any ordinary day, only sheep and cattle graze. Two weeks later, the Royal Navy ship HMS Medway sailed 7 days from the Falkland Islands to relieve the team, bringing a civilian medical crew and additional supplies. By June 19, 2026, the outbreak was officially declared over on the island. Once they'd landed on this island, there was no parachuting back out. All they could do was wait for a ship, exactly as the islanders themselves do, every single day. A rare rescue mission is what put Tristan on the world's radar. But the real life of the people who live here is what's actually worth exploring. A day on Tristan da Cunha doesn't begin with an alarm clock. As soon as the sky starts to lighten, fishermen are already at the harbor, bundled in thick windbreakers, wearing rubber boots worn soft by years of use. But before anyone starts up a single boat, everyone stops and looks out to sea. They watch the waves hitting the harbor wall, read the wind direction, study the clouds offshore, deciding whether the sea is safe enough to go out on today. If the water is calm enough, a familiar sound rings out across the village, someone banging rhythmically on an old steel drum. It's the community's signal that today, it's safe to go out to sea. The entire island has just one post office, one shop, one school, one small hospital, and one full-time police officer. That post office isn't just for sending letters. It's where people check in on a package that's on its way, a letter from a relative overseas, or simply the schedule for the next ship due to pass through. Just a few steps from the post office is St. Mary's School, the island's only school, where every Tristan child studies together, regardless of age. But only until age 16. After that, every child on the island has to leave home, continuing their education either in St. Helena or all the way in the UK. For many of them, it's the first time in their lives they've ever left the island where they were born, and also the moment they're forced to decide for themselves whether to come back or start an entirely new life somewhere else. Not far away is the Camogli Health Center, the island's only hospital. Since 2017, the facility has been upgraded to meet the standards of Britain's National Health Service. And since then, babies have been able to be born right on the island, instead of having to cross the ocean to somewhere else. Perhaps that's the clearest line between what this island can manage on its own and what, whether they like it or not, its people still have to rely on the outside world for. But there's one thing this entire island depends on even more tightly than the post office or the shop: electricity. All of Tristan da Cunha runs on diesel generators, housed right at the island's fish processing plant. That diesel is stored in 9 large tanks, each holding 20,000 liters, and every drop of it has to arrive by sea. Islanders have tried to break free of that dependence before. In 1982, they installed a wind turbine right next to the village, a place famous for winds that almost never stop blowing. But not long after it went into operation, the very wind they'd hoped to harness was the thing that destroyed it. A violent storm tore the turbine apart. By 2015, they tried a different approach, building a small solar farm, just 26 panels, enough to power only a tiny fraction of the island. Some rooftops were also fitted with solar water heaters, cutting down slightly on the imported gas needed for cooking and heating water. But even the sunlight here is unreliable. Clouds can roll in and blanket the sky at any moment, just like the same weather that changes 3 times a day we mentioned earlier. In early 2025, a team of engineers from the UK crossed the ocean to upgrade the island's entire substation system. A project considered essential, yet one that still had to wait for the exact moment when a ship and a fully qualified crew could both make it onto the island at the same time. The shift toward clean energy here has been an experiment spanning more than 40 years, not for lack of will, but because even the wind, the sun, or a single supply ship is something this island can never fully control on its own. Leaving the power plant behind, let's head to the place that feeds nearly every family on the island. A few kilometers from the village lies an area called the Patches, where every family tends its own potato plot, each one enclosed by walls of volcanic stone to block the salty sea wind. No one owns this land privately. It belongs to the whole community, shared and managed together across generations. At harvest time, one person digs up potatoes, another loads sacks onto a cart, and neighbors show up to help without ever needing to be asked. For them, sharing has become a resource just as valuable as the land or the harvest itself. And when the long day finally ends, the whole village has just one place to go, the Albatross Bar, the island's only pub, serving beer brewed right here. No long menu, no loud music playing in the background, just familiar faces and stories filling the silence left behind by the wind outside. Let's look a little further out. What put Tristan on the world map isn't just its people. Farther south, among the smaller islands of the Tristan archipelago, lies a place called Gough Island, almost entirely uninhabited by humans, yet home to roughly 80% of the world's entire population of northern rockhopper penguins. Not because the place is ideal, simply because there's almost nowhere else left on Earth quiet enough for them to survive. On that same stretch of land, the Tristan albatross, with a wingspan that can stretch up to 3.5 meters, quietly lifts off from sheer cliffs, flies millions of kilometers across the ocean, and still returns to the exact spot where it was born to build its nest. Perhaps humans aren't the only ones here who've learned how to find their way back. But this precious ecosystem has an enemy you can't spot from a distance. Norway rats, invasive stowaways that arrived on ships centuries ago, have adapted in ways no one ever anticipated. Every breeding season, thousands of chicks die before they ever get the chance to leave the nest, because these rats attack under the cover of night, one of the most severe ecological disasters unfolding on these islands, and one that continues to this day. Beneath the water, the most precious gift the ocean has given Tristan da Cunha is the rock lobster, the community's single most important and nearly only source of income, exported all the way to the United States and Japan. But the islanders have never fished at any cost. Fishing season, lobster size, the number of traps allowed, all of it is tightly regulated, so the ocean's resources always have time to recover. And yet that very lifeline is now under threat, as rising temperatures quietly reshape the habitat these lobsters depend on. But here's something worth pausing on. This tiny community contributes an almost negligible share of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. And yet, it's among the very first places on Earth to bear the clearest, most direct consequences of global climate change. When a community has stayed almost entirely cut off from the rest of the world for hundreds of years, what happens to its language and culture? If you listen closely to how the people of Tristan speak, you'll notice something distinctive right away. This isn't the English of London or the BBC. Because the island had almost no contact with the outside world for centuries, the language here has preserved much of its 19th century grammar and vocabulary, layered with traces of Italian from the Lavarello and Repetto families, along with the distinctive accent of St. Helena. In terms of governance, the community is run by an 8-member island council, elected directly by its own adult residents. No political parties, no campaign posters plastered around the village. In a community of just a few hundred people, where everyone has known each other since birth, what do you think their votes are actually based on, if not advertising or campaign promises? The island's most memorable celebration takes place on New Year's Eve, Old Year's Night. Men dress up as figures called okalo, wearing masks and outlandish costumes, going from house to house amid singing and laughter before the new year officially arrives. When the church bells ring at midnight, the whole island welcomes the new year together, through nothing more than the presence of every single neighbor. The island has 2 churches, St. Mary's, Anglican, and St. Joseph's, Catholic. Despite belonging to different denominations, they've never lived as separate, divided communities. They're not just places of worship. They're where nearly every milestone in an islander's life unfolds: baptisms, weddings, and funerals alike. And during festivals, the sound of guitar and accordion still rings out steadily, blending with songs about the sea, the volcano, and the very land they call home. Perhaps music here isn't simply for entertainment. It's how a tiny community, thousands of kilometers from the rest of the world, keeps telling its own story, year after year. And here's something few people would expect. The thing that leaves this island most often each year is something as small as a postage stamp bearing the name Tristan da Cunha. Most of the people who buy these stamps have never set foot on Tristan da Cunha in their lives. What they're really after isn't just a rare collectible, it's the story of one of the most isolated communities on the planet, condensed into just a few square centimeters of paper. This video was made just a short time after the hantavirus outbreak on the island was officially declared over, following weeks of anxious waiting. And perhaps that story alone says everything you need to know about Tristan da Cunha. This is not the easiest place in the world to live, but it's the place people always choose to come back to. Thank you for joining Extreme X Travel on today's journey to Tristan da Cunha. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring the world together.